hour. So please don't stop the recording. All right, so give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Can I get a thumbs up if you see my screen? Thank you. There is a chat feature to Google Hangouts too. So obviously you can verbalize your questions, or if there's anything else you can add to the chat. We do have like Cindy and Megan here as well to kind of monitor and help with stuff too. So for this session, what I wanted to do first is kind of show you how to talk about Canvas groups, and then how to set up Canvas groups and how that can happen. And then I want to talk just a quick, brief Google stuff, since Google is very collaborative. I want to definitely get into Jamboard, because I think a lot of people didn't know that existed until last week when I mentioned it a few times. And then talk about office hours a little bit, or actually maybe even have you guys discuss how you plan on doing office hours so we can kind of collaborate on that one. So what you should be seeing right now, this is a Canvas course. Here's one we were just playing in. Right now it's totally blank, so I'm just using it as a demo course at the moment. But I want to show you how to do Canvas groups. So I'm also going to tab really quickly into the Keep Teaching site. So this is the Keep Teaching site that you keep getting directed to go to. I have opened the part that is on group work and collaboration. So the stuff that we're going over right now, the guides for all of that is here, including a quick groups overview video if you want to start there. And then here's a bigger guide for instructors, a bigger guide for students, and then the other things we're going to talk about will be here as well. This recording, my hope is also to put this recording in the Keep Teaching site. So again, if you want to revisit what we talked about, you'll have access to that as well. So when you make a Canvas group in your course, that actually is going to happen in the people area. So I'm going to click on people, and you're going to see I have myself in here as the instructor, and then I have Megan, Amy, and Cindy in here as students. But apparently Amy doesn't want to participate because she is pending, which is totally fine. Actually, she's in another meeting right now. So this is going to be a very mini version of setting up groups in your course. So at the highest level of groups in Canvas, even if all I do is set up a group, they get their own little mini Canvas area to participate in. You as the instructor always have oversight of those groups. That's the bare minimum of what groups can do. If you want to take that a step farther, you can actually make assignments have a group turn-in functionality where one person, you can make it a group assignment, and one person from the group has to submit the whatever you want them to submit. And then you could give that group, you only have to grade that group stuff one time and they all get the same grade. And you can always override a grade. So typical in group projects, essentially, usually your goal is to get them all the same grade, but you might always have the student that's just really either did a lot more or a lot less than what was expected, and you can still adjust their grade accordingly. So let's talk first about setting up the group. And remember, these guides are in the Keep Teaching. So again, I'm in the people area of a course. By default, you see your roster. But what I want to do is work in the second tab called Groups. Okay. So I'm going to click on that tab. It's going to kind of try to prompt you here. So this is usually the most confusing part. Have what's called your group set. So I'm going to say plus group set. This is the name of what kind of groups you want them to be. So are these project groups? Are they writing groups? Are they lab groups? Are they whatever you want them to be? You as the instructor also have the ability to allow self-sign up. So do you want them to pick their own groups? You can do that. Or you can manually make groups. So I'm going to manually make groups just for time, I think. And then you can also say, in true Canvas fashion, the more you click on things, the more options might pop up. So groups manually was the default, which is why it looks basic. But if I say split students into X amount of groups, that's now also letting Canvas auto populate your group. So that's your other option. So I'm going to do it manually so I can show you how that works. So if you didn't want to do it manually and you know you have 15 students and you want 3 groups, then you can just say, make it 3 groups and let Canvas auto do them, but I'm going to do it manually. You can also assign a student leader to the group, or they can propose their own student leader. That's optional. Potentially that can get a little messy because that's also forcing the group leader to be the one that has to submit if you use it as an assignment thing. So you do or don't have to do that. So I'm going to go back to the basics here. I'm going to call it projects groups. I'm going to create my groups manually so I can show you how that works. And then I'm going to say save. So now you see this tab has been renamed from groups to project groups. If you want to make another group set because you have something else you want to happen, then you can have multiple levels of groups, okay? So now my interface in the middle here has changed, and you can see my 3 students are here, and I want to now give them their group. So this is where it's confusing. Group set is the higher level, like what kind of groups are they? Project groups, writing groups. The group plus is actually like the group name. So when I click plus group, now I'm saying like group A, group B, that kind of thing. Okay, so I have group A, and I'm going to have a group B. Okay. So remember, I decided to manually assign my students into groups, which for a lot of you might be the way to go, because I feel like this might be something you already had in process, and this is how you can kind of keep them going. So I'm going to slide Megan into group A, and I'm going to slide Cindy into group A. And when I expand the group, you see I have my 2 students in here, and I'm going to assign Amy to group B. So now these are my 2 groups, group A, group B. Here are the students I have in those groups. Everyone can always be moved around. And then from your ... you can visit the group homepage, okay? So let me back up again. I'm going to back out of everything I just did and go back to just people. So we are in people, project groups. This is showing us what we already just did. And now this is the bare minimum of what you want. If you just want them to have their own little area, this is all you have to do. As the instructor, what I can do is now I can come in and say, I want to see what these people are doing, and I'm going to visit their group homepage. And what they're getting is a mini Canvas course. But you as the instructor always have the ability to go in and check on their progress. So I'm in group A. I, as the instructor, can toggle between my groups here, and you can now see what features they have in a group setting. So they do have a home page. They do have the ability to send their own announcements to each other. They do have a pages area, which in Canvas is kind of like a blank Word document or blank Google Doc that they can all collaborate on. They have their own little people area, so they know who's in the group with them. They have their own discussion area. They have their own files area, so they can share files. They have their own conferences area. So Canvas conferences is something we'll talk more about in the next session, but Canvas conferences is basically what we're doing now in Google Hangouts, but the Canvas version of that. So in Canvas conferences, from your course as a whole, only you as the instructor can start one, and then they can join you. When they are in groups, they can start their own Canvas conferences. And then they have collaborations, which is probably not used that much. Essentially, they can throw in a Google Doc and work together, but they can do that so many other more effective ways than what you see right now. So as a group, they can now come into this little area, and they're going to see multiple places when they log into Canvas how to get into their groups. So they're actually going to have a new button here. You see how I have this now groups button that I didn't have before? So that's one of the ways, that's probably the main way they're actually going to jump into their group. So that's the most basic way to just set up a group, give them a working environment. Now, one thing to know about online classes and groups is even if you want them to be in groups in Canvas, if you don't say you are in groups, you have this space to work, you also have to be very clear that you expect to see evidence of their work in this space. If you don't say that, there's nothing preventing them from going rogue and like doing everything in Google or any other tools they want to use. That's not to say they shouldn't do that, but they still need to link to those things in here if it's important that you see evidence of it. Does that make sense? If not, it's going to remain this kind of blank space, and you won't have any proof of what they've done together. So you might say in your own space, I want you to have a discussion. I want, new things in there every, twice a week, or however you want to structure it. This needs a little more structure than when they're on campus and you're like, go work together. But that's easy for them, right? They can just find a time, meet together, and do their thing. So again, I can toggle as the instructor from my different groups here, group A, group B. And then probably the most confusing part about this as an instructor, once you are in this view, it's always like, how do I get back to my stuff? Like, where's my bigger Canvas course? And so that's where you want to click on the Keep here. This is the Keep Teaching site, and this should toggle you back into your bigger course. Okay, so you have your main course, and then you can have these mini little Canvas group areas. Okay, so again, that all happens in that people area. All right, to layer on top of that.
Kelly, could you just recap that again? Like once you've set the groups up, the toggling into the group and then toggling back out, I just missed it.
Okay, so all that's going to happen through people. So I'm going to click back into people. And then by default, you see your whole roster. So you just need to click on the tab that you just created called Project Groups. And then from here, you can jump in. You only have to jump in one, because once you're in one, you can easily toggle to others. So the next thing, and I don't want to get into the weeds on this one because this is going very specific into different assignments, but what I want to do right now is just open an assignment to show you how you can take this a bit farther and actually require group assignments. They need to be in groups already, which we just did, but now I'm going to create, again, don't go into the weeds, I'm just going to go into the settings here. This can be done in discussions, and this can be done in assignments. When you are in the options area, you should see something called group assignment. If you choose to check that, then you say what group set you want this assignment group to pull from. So we just set up project groups. So I'm going to say project groups. And then you see the option, you can assign grades to each student individually, or you can assign grades where you set a grade and they all get the same grade in that group. So this you'll see again in assignments and or in discussions. Even if you say you want to assign it to everyone the same grade, you can always override. That's also a huge time saver for you. So if they're in groups of 5, you only have to grade 1 and they all get the same grade and grade comments. If you say assign grades to each student individually, now you have to do that multiple times. So keep in mind your own workload when you're setting this up, okay? So again, in discussions and in assignments, you're gonna get the feel of assigning group projects if you choose to, and you don't have to. They can still work in groups and still submit things individually. So it depends on how many layers you want on top of this. All right, so the next one I wanna go and do is I'm gonna talk about Google Jamboard. So I'm gonna open a new tab here. If you were in one of the sessions last week, you may have seen me talk about this. This is a Google product, but this is a great collaborative item. So to get here, you can either go to jamboard.google.com, or I'm going to show my Google Drive real quick. Anytime you are in the waffle here and you scroll down, you can also get to Jamboard. So there's my Jamboard right there. So what I'm going to do is think of this, a Jamboard is essentially a blank whiteboard. So if you are someone who is used to a whiteboard with you, or you even like the interactive whiteboards that some of the classrooms have, this is a great option for you. And because it is a Google product, you can collaborate on it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Like any other Google product, I'm going to click the share button in the corner, and I'm going to change my settings so that anyone at Franklin and Marshall college can find this and access it if I give them the link. And I did this so that we could all do this together. So I'm going to copy this link, and in the chat here, I'm going to paste the link. So if you want to click on it, hopefully you guys can join me here. Now I'm trying to prove that this is how this is going to work. Yay. All right. So in a true Google thing, you see everyone's little bubble popping up here and they're joining us. So you can do this live, or you can just have this as part of your class and people can come in and out as they want to. Again, blank Word or blank whiteboard. You can change the background. So I might be a math class and I want grid paper. You can make it a chalkboard feel if you like that.
I'm sorry, Kelly, how do we join?
So in the chat, in the Google Hangout, if you click on the chat, I've just put the link in there. You should just have to click on it.
In the chat. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing.
It should look like a little speech bubble, like a rectangle with lines in the middle.
In the very middle, top middle of the screen.
Should be, depending on how you're viewing it. Do you see like the people where it says people 20, like a people icon?
Are you
so
talking?
those that are in the Jamboard, play with some of these settings on your left. You can do pens, you can draw. We should all be able to participate in this at the same time.
Okay, but I'm sorry. What part of the screen, like left, right, up, down, top?
So
should I be looking at?
if you look at your upper right hand corner,
Uh-huh.
you see like a little speech bubble with lines in it.
Now, is this within what you're showing on your screen, or is it?
If you're in Google, you should be in the Google Hangout.
I'm not sure where I am. I'm sorry. Well, I see something in Chrome. It says me-cmj. I don't know. It's not a big deal because I can hear you and everything, but it's just I want to know.
Because I'm sharing my screen, can you see what other people are doing?
Hey, Bob, this is Christina.
Yeah.
I think if you go to the top right of your browser, do you see maybe Kelly's picture and like a few other people on the side?
Yeah.
On the far right. So up above that, there's this little, like a little person that says like 20. And then to the right of that is like this square. It sort of looks like a cartoon box.
Yes.
I think that's what you want to click on, that thing that has the lines.
Let me try that.
And if you click there on the left, if you left click there, then it will show all of the chats that have happened. You can scroll down to the bottom and you'll see this link that that Kelly sent.
Yeah, it says Curtis Asplund, thanks right now.
Yeah, so if you scroll up a little before that, you'll see this HTTPS Jamboard. There's this link.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
There.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, and so now,
you joined, and now you're on.
Oh, am I? Okay.
Yes. Apparently.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
All right, thank you. So you guys are experiencing a live situation of a Jamboard and you're all in there doing your thing. You can see where this can be really nice to be low stakes if you want it to be. But as you're seeing, people are also adding images. So another way you can make this a little more academic is, say you have a PDF, you can always save that as an image, upload it, and then you guys can actually like group annotate it or label things on an image. So think creatively about some of the things that you could do in just a blank space like this. One of my favorite things about Jamboard, besides it being creative and collaborative, as you're seeing right now, is that if you go up to the top right-hand corner where you see all the people who have joined us, you also have the ability to download this as a PDF. So even if you want to work on it together or encourage your students to do this together, but you want proof of it again, they can always download it as a PDF and share that with you. So think of brainstorming, mind mapping, stuff like that. Or they can just share and give you access to it so that you can go in and check progress at any time. So be creative as you're thinking about a tool like this. You guys like this one? Seems like you might.
Can we know who contributed to each individual part or something?
Not really.
Okay.
There's also the ability to, like at the top, it says 1 of 1. You can actually create more boards in one session, if that makes sense, or multiple pages, I guess. So like if this one gets really full, you can actually click the arrow and go to 2 out of 2 and keep it going or make it another thing. Yeah, so some of you joined me in the second one. So that's a very quick example that I feel like it's also nice because it's like a product that our students are semi-familiar with. Like it's an easy one to share, it's an easy one to collaborate, it's an easy one to show progress. There's a ton of, if you just Google free online whiteboard, there's a ton of things like this. I just think because that we are already a Google platform school, I just went in this direction. So also think too, and I know I've mentioned this in some things, you're gonna have to think creatively about, it's called app smashing, APP smashing, apps. So especially if you're in a live situation as we are right now, how nice is it to be able to work together on something, but also talk to each other? So we're combining two things at once in order to accomplish a goal. So we're gonna have to think creatively that way too. But you guys are doing a great job. All right, so here. So the other thing I have on my list here, because we are at the time where we have 40 minutes left, and I want to obviously make this as meaningful as possible. On my list, I was going to talk about Google products like Google Drive, Sheets, and Slides, and how to get those into your Canvas course, or just start one because those are very collaborative. Or we can talk about office hours, because I think having a conversation about how you guys envision that going, I think this is a good time for that as well. So I'm willing to go in either direction, or try to do both really quickly, but I do feel like our time is getting a little tight. So I want to do whatever is most valuable for you guys.
I'm, as I said, most interested in setting up, I don't know if it's office hours or what, but setting up ways to have video chats with all or some of my students.
All right, so what you're experiencing right now is Google Hangouts. So you're also seeing, I think, the pluses and minuses to it. As I've mentioned in the first 2 sessions, Google Hangouts is great because it's easy to get everyone in here. It's very mobile friendly, so they can do it on their phone. The negative, if there is a negative, it doesn't have to be, but this one gives equal control to all people in here. Please don't stop the recording because I want to keep it going, but technically you all could stop the recording, even though I'm the one that started it. Technically you could mute each other, even though, and I can't unmute you. So like there's things that like you don't have that instructor control as you do with some other products. But since we're in this one, you can also see it's basic, like intentionally basic, partially to make it easy. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. But if all you really need to do, especially in an office hour setting, is communicate with an individual or communicate with a small group, this might be a great way to do that. Okay. And again, you can still share your screen. You still have a chat. You just saw me put a link into the chat if you want to like direct people all in a similar direction. And then to get into it, so if you guys want to still play in Jamboard, go ahead, but I'm actually going to get off of the sharing of the Jamboard. So a couple of ways to get in my calendar, because I feel like that'll be easier. There are 2 main ways to start what we're in right now, okay? One of them is going to be using your Google Calendar, which is what you should see on your screen right now is my Google Calendar. So if you go to make any calendar anything, like you normally would, to start a Google Hangout or to make it a Hangout, as I did for you guys for this session, is from anytime you see add rooms, location, or conferencing, that's where you're going to say add conferencing, and it's going to default to a Google Hangout.
Hmm.
And then just like any other calendar invite, if you want to invite specific people, you could actually type in their names, and that would put that event on everyone's calendar. So that's one way to go.
I'm still seeing the Jamboard graffiti. I'm not seeing your the calendar.
Hold on, I'm going to stop presenting and then represent and see if I can
Okay,
make sure.
thanks.
I saw the calendar.
You might need
Bob,
to.
you're still on the Jamboards tab.
All right, so I represented too. Can you give me a thumbs up if you see my calendar again? Thank you.
Yeah.
I
So let's
still,
go over that again.
I still,
See my calendar?
You might need to change which tab you're looking at in your browser.
Right, I had to do that.
Yeah, Bob, are you back in the Google Chat tab?
I don't see one.
It should have a little red dot in the tab to
Okay.
indicate that's the one with the video.
Yeah, thanks. That worked.
Awesome. So you see my calendar? So let me go over the calendar to start a Google Hangout. Because remember, there's two main ways to do it. Calendar is nice because it does give you a specific link that only those that you share it with can join, which is what we did here. So I'm going to click on my calendar to start any calendar thing like you normally do. And what you're going to do is where it says add rooms, location, or conferencing, you're going to select that and actually say conferencing. And it's going to create this special link. And this is the link you can share with the people you want to join you. Because this is a calendar invite, you could also just join. Like I can invite Cindy, and now Cindy and I have a meeting that we can do through Google Hangout. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Another way to do it that's also super easy is anytime you are in your Google items, as I am now, you are going to look for the square of dots. It's called a waffle up at the top. Once you're in your waffle, you can scroll down and look for the meet icon. So it's green with a camera. And if I click on that, this is also a way to quickly get into a Google Hangout. So right now you see the one that we're doing now, or I can click join or start a meeting. So this is doing one on the fly. One thing to note about this, because there's definitely been some humorous stories doing it this way. A couple times I have shown people Google Hangout by just coming in here and calling it test. And what's happened is other people have gone in and called theirs test, and it joined our sessions together.
Hmm.
So people, no, not outside people, people from F&M, because it would be kind of restricted to that. You can have outside people join a Google Hangout if you give them a special link, but this part they wouldn't be able to join. So if you do it this way, which isn't horrible, you just have to be a lot more creative with your naming so that no one else can go in and name it the exact same thing and join you.
Right.
So I learned that the hard way. So those are Google Hangout. Your other option, and we will talk about this in a second, but your other option would be in your Canvas course, you have this button called Conferences. It's going to be a menu item in your course. If you click on Conferences, it's big blue button if you've ever heard of that, but this is their built-in web conferencing. This one's more restrictive because you do have to be a member of a course, like you have to be in the same course together to get together, okay? But like all Canvas things, you're going to say plus conference, you name it what you want, you can record it, you can give it a description, you can invite everyone, or you can invite individual people. So if I just want to work with Cindy, I can just invite Cindy, and that's how we can have a one-on-one office hour situation. Remember, there's pros and cons to all of this. In Canvas conferences, one of the negatives is you have to be in the course together. If you want to make it a recording, it only saves that recording for 14 days and it cannot be downloaded. Okay. For office hours, that probably doesn't matter. But for a whole class thing, that might be important to you. The pros of this one is there is a lot more functionality. You can do polling. It has a built-in whiteboard. There is the same things we have here, sharing of your screen, chatting. What else did we see yesterday? The polling though, note that it's on the fly polling. So you don't actually have to set up like questions. You're just gonna verbally express your question and then give the people you wanna poll the option of yes or no, true or false, A, B, A, B, C. So those are the options you give them, but you have to verbalize what you want that question to be. You don't type it in. Google's a lot more mobile friendly. This is also doable, but not probably as nicely on a mobile phone as it is with Google Hangouts. So here's another option. And all these things you can go play in without having to have like other people in there with you. So keep that in mind too. You could start one of these in your course and then just don't have anyone join you. And then your third option, which I can't go into too much detail about, but I will say where we're at with it, is a lot of you wanted Zoom. So Zoom is another big platform for live online meetings. And we don't subscribe to that here, partially because anyone can do Zoom for free anyway. And then the limit was 40 minutes if you wanted to record it. So what's happening right now, and this is happening with a lot of products that education technology and teachers use, is because of the situation we are in right now, a lot of them are waiving the fee for premium features and basically giving everyone full access to their products to help us get through this time. So Zoom is one of those products. And what has to happen is you have to fill out a bunch of paperwork to prove that we are affected by coronavirus so that they can unlock all these features so that we can use the tool fully. So right now, F&M ITS department is in the process of getting that paperwork filled out so that we can then set up the single sign-on access. And I'm assuming that's going to happen today. I'm assuming worst case tomorrow, so that tomorrow or Thursday, hopefully you guys get a message that Zoom is now becoming another option. But that is another one you can play with right now if you want to, because you can still do it for free. Zoom is also very mobile friendly. And it has very similar features to what we've been seeing. You have a whiteboard, you can share, you can chat, you can, I'm trying to think what something it has that the other ones don't have. That one's a better one if you want to bring in outside speakers, because it's a lot easier than like Canvas conferences where you all have to be in the course together. Your other thing to think about, and Nadia, please chime in, is we're going to have a lot of students potentially going home that are currently international students living on campus. And remember, if they go home, especially to China, Google is now blocked. So like something like a Zoom is now your best option because Google Hangouts isn't going to be your thing. Something like conferences is going to be your option because it's not Google.
Yeah, and so that's part of why I am trying to figure out some options for tools to use. We don't really know exactly how many students are going to be completing the semester from China yet. That's still being determined. We'll have updates for that as soon as possible, but we want to make sure that we can get the students the access they need. Students could use the F&M VPN to access our Google products, but that is technically illegal to do. And it's probably not good that we require students to break the law in their home country if they are there. So like they can use our VPN, but we want to just make sure that they have an option too, if they're not comfortable doing that, because they may not be. And so that is actually another question I had though, Kelly. What format does this recording save in from Hangouts? If it
so for Hangouts, and I press stop, it's going to email me when it's ready, and it's going to automatically throw it in my Google Drive.
Okay.
once you have a video in your Google Drive, it still can be downloaded and shared however you wish. But you don't have to worry about like, where did it go? It's going directly to your Google Drive.
So in theory, you could record a Hangout session, download it as, I'm assuming, an MP4, and then upload it to Canvas, and it would be accessible.
Exactly.
So in theory, you could use Hangouts to do synchronous teaching, but then download that and make it visible to people through Canvas for asynchronous teaching. We think that Canvas may be available to students in China right now, but I'm not completely sure. I've heard what I've looked at online indicates that it might be, but what I've heard from students indicates that it may not be accessible without a VPN. So we'll kind of have to see if Canvas works easily for students or not.
Canvas is a global product, and China is one of the countries that uses it. But I think the other thing to mention, besides them potentially not accessing it, is you also have to keep in mind, especially with these live online tools as we're doing right now, and again, this is a daily change that we keep having to kind of pivot around, is the entire country and almost world, I feel like, is now trying to stream online at the same time. Last week, when we made the decision to go online, K-12s were not at the moment. And then the next day, all the K-12s are going online. So even as some of you have already mentioned, your kids are home, they're doing online schooling for the first time. Bandwidth is getting taxed all over the place. So I think this is a good time to remind yourself to be flexible, be patient. Not everything's going to work perfectly. A lot of it's probably going to be out of our control. But it's good to have options so that if you do have to get off the Google stuff, then you have other options you can go to. Or if Zoom goes down because the entire world is taxing it right now, you have other options to go to. So I think it's important for us to just realize what could potentially be happening in the next few weeks.
And the great thing about a lot of these tools is that we can do more with them sometimes than we realize. So you could, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly, download a YouTube video, right?
So if you
Of your own.
Yeah, so if you've put your own YouTube videos up there thinking you're trying to hit the closed captioning, because that's the joy of YouTube, it auto closed captions. Just because you stored it up there, if you own the video, you can always re-download it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you could run your lectures through YouTube to put the captioning on there for your students, but then download them and then put them in a Canvas or a file that they can definitely access from wherever they are, and then they can stream it whenever.
So if you're confused on everything we just said, I'm back. If you see my screen, I am back on the Keep Teaching webpage. I'm in the lecture area, which is actually our next topic, but something that I added this weekend, because I feel like you guys are definitely at the point of like, okay, I have videos, now what? So what I've done is down here, I've made 3 videos that show all the different ways you can add a video to your Canvas course. Number 1 is you have a video that's now saved on your own computer. How do you add it? Here's your directions for that. I also use, to also show how easy it is, and this is our next session, so bear with me. I use Screencastify as one of the options for that, so you can see how that works. Or let's say you have a video in your Google Drive. How do you now add that to your Canvas course? That's your second video. And then the third video is you have a video, how to add it to YouTube, and then how to add the YouTube into your Canvas course. So all your options are there. Again, I feel like we are changing daily on potential potholes that we might be hitting along the way, but this will be fine and we will get this done. It'll be great. It'll be fine.
Kelly?
Could I ask you a quick question, Kelly, about the recording that you're making right now?
Mm-hmm.
So when that's downloaded, would the students see mouse movements and you highlighting things as part of the video?
So in a recording from Google Hangouts, as we're doing right now, when the recording goes into your Google Drive, if you're sharing your screen as I am, that will be the bulk of the recording, and then there'll be a little window to the right, and whoever is talking, their video and or avatar or whatever they have is what's going to be seen. What we were hoping that doesn't happen is, if you were in the first session, we were talking about how if you hover towards the bottom, you can turn on closed captioning. That is something you as an individual can turn on and off as you please. That does not get captured in the recording.
Hmm.
Kelly?
But yes, you
Two
get mouse
questions.
movements. Anything you're doing on your screen that gets captured is part of the video. So
Okay, thank you.
yes.
Hi, it's Olga.
Olga.
Hey, two questions. Along those lines, does captioning get captured on the YouTube videos that you upload and then download?
It does not remain part of your video when you re-download it.
Okay.
We're kind of
okay.
aware that this is potentially going to become an issue because at the moment, what it feels like, and I don't want you to feel like this is what we're doing, but I feel like when we talk about this, it feels like we're either supporting our students going to China or we're supporting our students to go with accessibility, and we're not supporting both at the same time. We're very well aware that that's how this looks, but that's not what we're trying to do. There are options that we potentially need to investigate in terms of if you upload your video directly to Canvas using option 1 here, there are ways we can get closed captioning on that. It's just not going to be instant like YouTube, and it's not going to be done anytime this week, but it's something we can add eventually. We're just working on that. So
Thanks. And then I had another question about conferencing, backing up a little bit,
okay.
which is, can we display, while we're in conference, can we display PowerPoints or slides?
Yes, so anytime, all conferencing options we talked about have a share your screen capability, which is what I'm doing right now in the Google Hangouts. If I made when you click share your screen, you're going to get a pop-up saying what part of your screen, like what window do you want to share? If I had a PowerPoint, I would select the window that my PowerPoint's open in. So you almost have to have your PowerPoint open first so that you can select it. I'm selecting my web browser, which is why you see me going into different tabs, which also works in Google Hangouts, because in your Google Hangouts, it also works in like Google Slides, which would be the equivalent of PowerPoint there. So you would just select whatever window your Google Slides is in. What you're going to have to be aware of and or just kind of give up a little bit might be all the bells and whistles presenting features you would have in like a PowerPoint. Like all your animation might be not happening because you might have to do slide by slide and not necessarily in show mode. It's very good. That part's going to be very much however your kind of computer system is set up at your home. Like right now, I'm on multiple monitors. You probably don't have that at home, which is partly why I'm here and not doing this at home. You might have, if you can like tile out your stuff to be smaller and then just select that as something you want to share, that's what you can do too. But notice what, like when I do share my stuff, the simple things I'm doing to know that you guys are still with me. Like I'll say like, give me a thumbs up if you're seeing X, Y, and Z. So these are simple ways I can check in that don't make me just ramble and you're not seeing what I want you to see, right? So you're gonna have to be a little more creative in how you share your stuff, but whatever platform you wanna use, sharing your screen is how you would share your presentation.
Kelly, is there a transcript download option for Google Hangouts? I know there is for Zoom.
So there is not. I would get a transcript of the chat.
Okay, the chat is going to be there then.
The chat will be there. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm going to pause for a second and stop this recording.